All right, our next ranter is also from Milford. His name is Rick, and he wants to talk about the NFL uncapped season that's upcoming.
It's a good one.
Rick, your New Yorker sports rant begins right now.
All right, Rick, look into the camera and give us your best.
All right. What's the best thing about the NFL? I know it's great that we can watch it every Sunday, but I think the one thing that really makes the NFL great is that there's so much parity. I mean, look at this year. We've got the Bengals about to win the AFC North at 9-3. We've got a lot of other surprise teams. Every year you see this. But next year, if we have an uncapped year, we're going to lose a lot of the value we get from this parity in the NFL, because these teams like the Redskins, the Cowboys, the Giants are going to be able to spend way more money, and it's going to make the playing field way more unfair, and it's going to become almost like baseball, where you have teams that just aren't able to contend year in, year out. And even if it's just a one-year thing, I just don't think that's the direction we want to see the NFL take. So the players and the owners need to somehow come together. I understand sports is a business, but they need to somehow reach a resolution here, because everybody's making a lot of money. Let's not have an uncapped year. This would be terrible for both sides.
You know, you're 100% right. The reason that the NFL is so successful is because every market is in the mix. That's one of the big reasons. Of course, gambling is a big reason. Of course, it's a great TV sport. But the fact that every year there's a case that can be made for 32 teams. Sometimes it doesn't work out. This year's a lot of bad teams. Right. But you can turn it around like that. Generally, it's a couple of real bad organizations like the Lions. We cannot have an uncapped year. You said it would almost be like baseball. It wouldn't almost be like baseball. It would be like baseball. And teams like the teams that we root for, Minnesota Vikings, Cincinnati Bengals, would be absolutely dead. It would be an absolute travesty. That cannot happen. I hope that DeMaurice Smith, who's the new Players Association Director, and Roger Goodell get on the same page here, please, because this would ruin the NFL.
And you know, the people that are against the salary cap always say, and I've even mentioned this before, there have actually been more different teams that have won the World Series in the last 20 years than the Super Bowl. But here's why it's misleading. Because teams like the Yankees cannot be any worse than they were last year.
Right. Yeah.
That's as bad as they can be. They're always going to be great. And teams like the Royals and Pirates will never be in the mix ever.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a few teams on the top that win different years, but it's always basically the same teams every year in baseball. In football, yes, we know there's been teams that have been successful during the salary cap era. The Steelers have been real good, the Patriots, the Colts. But every year there's teams that come out of nowhere. That doesn't really happen in baseball.
Right.
Certainly not to win it all. Maybe to get in the playoffs sometimes, but not win it all.
One thing that scares me is Sean O'Hara, who's heavily into the player representation. He's a guy who's very involved in all of this, said the other day that without question this is going to happen. He said without question.
But don't you think the owners may lock out the players before allowing this to happen?
Well, what's worse for them, though? I mean, what are they going to lose? I mean, I don't think so, not at all, because you're going to have, I mean, I'm not sure, is it a unanimous vote they would have to do to lock out the player? I don't know how that works, because there's guys like Daniel Snyder who is sitting there salivating, Jerry Jones salivating for this to happen.
But the majority of the owners don't want it.
Right, the majority don't, so I'd have to look into that and how many votes you need.
See, I wouldn't think it's unanimous. I'm not sure if it's majority, 3/4, whatever.
Right, well, I'd have to look into that.